this is the first time we've ever really done an introductory meeting. And since we have the ability to do everything online now, we thought it was a good idea to try to do it online. And there's so many different things that we're doing with the program this year, we thought it might be good to try to answer some questions in advance and explain some of the things that we're doing and why. So remember that this is step 2 in the 3-step strategy. Step 2, of course, is to commit yourself and your loved ones to a formal and continuous maintenance and education program. So here's our agenda for today. I'm going to go over some of the program features for this year and just sort of explain them. Then I'm going to go over the deadlines and events for all the members. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the online education program. I'm going to talk about the objectives and the schedule, and Christine's going to take over and talk about how to participate and how to use the website, which is part of that. And then we'll get on to questions. So, program features. First thing, of course, that happens in the year is the annual funding update program. We need to do that, of course, every year so that we can be sure that we know what you have and what it's worth. And that helps us with the state settlement, whether you're disabled or not, or disabled or you die. And you know, that's fundamental to an updating program. And because we found that it made sense for us to continue to do the funding, we now do continuous funding, whereas before we just helped people. The annual client meetings, of course, occur this year in June. We'll talk about that schedule. And then the Client Update Program, or CUP, that's the update program for documents, which occurs in September and October. You're all familiar with all of that. One thing that we have found, though, is that most of our Step 2 clients don't really realize that they have the ability to call us anytime they want to and ask a question, and we don't turn the meter on. We're happy to talk to our Step 2 clients anytime and answer questions. And as part of the education program, we're going to be including your helpers in that first call program, provided that they qualify. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then, of course, there's Care Call, which we tend to forget to tell people about, but as part of your Step 2 fee, we pay for an annual subscription to Care Call for you. You will be receiving or have received a package from Care Call with some documents for you to look at, some sign-in, and some jewelry and some stickers for things that you can put on your license. We found that when people put the stickers they get from Care Call on their cell phone, if they lose their cell phone, somebody calls Care Call and Care Call calls you. So you get your cell phone back. So it's a pretty good service. And some of you have had calls for just that kind of reason. So it's a pretty good service, and we like to remind people about that. I remember one year I didn't realize I was going to get a package, and we got the package, didn't tell Carol, and the package got thrown away. And then I started complaining to Rose that I didn't have the package, and she said it was sent, and then I realized what had happened. So you will be getting a package from her, if you haven't already, about your annual subscription. And then you can go online and enter whatever information you want. That's a secure site. You have a password and all that. This year we added the advanced program, which we'll talk a little bit about, but not in great length. You've seen the information about what the advanced program is about in the packages that we sent out. But we realized that there were some issues that some of our clients had, particularly for beneficiary designations and for insurance, that some clients who are long-term clients and they're unaware of some issues that have come up since they did their original funding. And so we thought it would be a good idea to have a program for that rather than to give people an alert and suggest that they come in and see us for a consultation fee. So we thought that was to deal with those things as part of the advanced program was a lot more efficient way for people to do it and so that's why we started the advanced program. And then, of course, there's the base and advanced education programs. And I'm going to be talking mostly about the base education program today, the primary Step 2 program, which we have traditionally called nuts and bolts, and talking about that. So the deadlines and events. So Tuesday, actually I think it's Friday, April 17, sorry about the mistype. Friday, April 17 is the deadline for sending in your updated asset review reports. Now those asset review reports are in the blue books that you got last year at the annual client meetings. So we give them to you in the blue book so that you can use them to update your assets anytime, but they're primarily for this period of time. So we'd like to get all this in March, but the deadline, of course, is April 17th. And if you have trouble finding your blue book or you have trouble finding your asset review report, just feel free to call Alicia and she'll get you a new copy of it.
Frank?
Yes.
It's actually the 22nd. We have on the
Okay.
calendar.
All right,
So
the 22nd.
That's Tuesday, April 22nd.
Okay. All right, so whatever that date is, that's what the date is, and you have plenty of time between now and then to get the reports in. Remember that it's really important that you, if you find something that we have on the list that is not something you currently own, you should cross it out and let us know. If there's something that's not on the list that you know you own, you should basically be sure to put it in. There's a separate sheet to add assets, and also be sure to update all of the values. So on Friday, May 2nd, is the deadline for getting your annual client meeting registrations in. We sent out the annual client meeting registrations with the welcome packet this year, so we've got plenty of time to do that. There are 2 annual client meetings scheduled for this year. One is on Friday, June 6th at 10, and one is on Wednesday, June 26th at 6. So pick either one of those, and please make sure that you give us the first choice on the registration.
Frank, a question?
Yeah, sure.
In the annual client meeting registration forms, some people ended up getting the wrong ones. I got one for the wrong people. Just cross off their name and put my name in and send it in?
Yes, that's correct. We had a technical glitch in our software that was generating those things, and we didn't realize that some of the names came out wrong. So my apologies for that. But all you need to do is just cross out the name that's on the registration and put in your own name, and that's going to work just fine. Thanks very much for pointing that out.
Also, the Wednesday date is the 25th. That's Wednesday the 25th.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
You can tell this was added in yesterday to us. I made these slides last night, and I was typing them in, and sometimes you just don't recognize the typos that you do. So Wednesday, I stand corrected, Wednesday, June 25th at 6 p.m. for the second annual client meeting. Then Friday, August 1st is when the estate planning review worksheets are due in. Remember, those are the worksheets that people who are having their documents updated need to fill out. If there are any changes, they need to tell us about them, and if everything is supposed to stay the same for their updates in the fall, then they need to tell us that as well. So we need to get an estate planning review worksheet from everybody who's doing their updates this year. And you'll know that when we'll give you the estate planning review worksheets if you're having an update this year in your update of your Blue Book when you come in for your annual client meeting. So then in September, the first client update meeting is on September 17th. That's at 6 p.m. And then we have another one on October 3rd at 10 a.m. And then the final one on October 23rd at 6 p.m. So we have 3 update meetings. We'll probably have those back at the Walker Center like we did last year for those of you who updated. And that's just on Grove Street. It seemed like it worked out really well. It was a good setting for us to have those meetings. So those are the deadlines and events, the main deadlines and events for this year, not including any of the education. So let me talk a little bit about the online education program. We have traditionally done our education as classes in a classroom style, and what people had to do is they had to come to our office and be involved in the class, and people had to attend in person. And this year we decided to go to online education because it gave us a lot more opportunity to actually show people the information that we wanted, and it made it a lot more convenient for people. But I wanted to go over why the online education program is so important. And here's what it is. It's really about the three-step strategy. And of course, the second step is to commit yourself and your loved ones to a formal and continuous maintenance and education program. That's what the Step 2 program is. And then Step 3, I'd like to point out, it says secure appropriate assistance for you and your loved ones to transfer your wisdom along with the rest of your wealth. Now, note that that is in the present tense. It's easy to think of Step 3 as what happens after you die, but that's not true. Actually, Step 3 is something that you're supposed to do while you're alive, and that means securing appropriate assistance. So the second and third steps are really things that are going on in the Step 2 program and while you're alive. So, here's the Step 2 program. There's the three basic elements: the biannual updates of documents, the asset funding reviews, which occurs in the spring, and the training and education. And the most important part of actually securing appropriate assistance is the training and education. So that's what we're trying to do. Our whole objective to this is to secure appropriate assistance to transfer your wisdom along with the rest of your wealth. Now, the issue of what is appropriate assistance, it's easy to think, well, that must be Heritage Design Law Group, but it isn't just us. Appropriate assistance includes everybody that's on your team. So that would be your financial advisors, your accountant, and family members who play a role in your estate plan, like people who are appointed as powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, successor trustees, disability panel members, etc. All of these are people that are your helpers, and they're the ones that provide the appropriate assistance, transfer, etc. And it's up to you to try to make sure that as part of your efforts and your commitments to secure that team. So what is appropriate assistance? The purpose of appropriate assistance really is to control costs. What we find is that when people have not got a team of advisors or team of helpers who really understand what's supposed to happen, what really happens in estate settlement in particular is that the costs go up. And what we want to do during lifetime is to make sure that we do full disclosure of our fees, and that happens during the first part of the three-step strategy when we do the counseling. But it also happens every year when we have the annual client meetings. We go over our fees, and if there are increases in the annual fees, then there will be increases. And again, appropriate assistance ends up giving you true peace of mind, and that peace of mind is that your team of helpers is prepared. When we give the Truth About Estate Planning now, one of the main questions that we ask people is, if you think about the people that are involved in your plan, and those are usually family members and friends, if something happened to you today, or if you died today, would they be prepared? And of course, a lot of times people say, well, what is prepared? Well, I know what the telephone number of the attorney is, but that's not it. What really it should be is that they know what's supposed to happen, how the things are supposed to be done, and how they're supposed to pay for it. And so actually securing that assistance means having a team that knows those three basic things: what they're supposed to do, what their role is, how they're supposed to do it, and how the costs actually get managed. So the keys to controlling the costs are, of course, our full funding, and then, of course, proactive trustee and beneficiary training. Let me back up just a little bit. There was a case recently in the state of Iowa, a really interesting case, where a financial advisor brought their client to an attorney who did a revocable living trust plan that was funded. and the financial advisor actually helped them fund the plan. And then a couple of years later, the client told the advisor that he wanted to make a couple of changes in his plan. He wanted to give the house to an individual, and he wanted to make a donation to a charity when he died. And so the advisor introduced him to another attorney. The other attorney didn't ask anything about the prior planning, didn't ask anything about the funding, and did a will. And in the will, it gave the house to the friend and gave a donation to the charity. And then, of course, the client died. The house didn't go to the will, didn't go under the will. The assets didn't go through the will to the charity. They were all owned in the revocable living trust that was funded. And so the friend and the charity got shorted, and the plan didn't work. Well, of course, they sued the attorney, but they also sued the financial advisor. And the financial advisor said, oh, no, you can't hold me responsible. I didn't set up the plan. And the court said, not so fast, and held that the financial advisor could be liable because they knew or should have known that the funding was supposed to be done correctly. And so full funding is really important. That's why we do the checkup every year, to make sure that we know where everything is and that we know what the values are, et cetera. Proactive trustee training, and that's the nuts and bolts program. The proactive engagement approach, of course, is our agreement with you that we will offer estate settlement services. And right now, that offer is at a cap of 0.75%. And we're going to, actually, the national network this year has introduced a whole new engagement agreement for the Step 2 program, which is really it's a much better agreement than the one we've been using. It actually outlines everything that happens in the Step 2 program, and we're going to be going over that at the annual client meeting. So that's a part of it. But that proactive engagement approach provides that we have a commitment to you, provided that you meet your commitments, to provide estate settlement at a cap. If clients don't meet that commitment, then we have to deal with other costs. But the whole point of the program, the Step 2 program, is to try to minimize those costs, and that's why we make that commitment to you. And then, of course, the successor trustees are the ones who hire whoever it is that's going to be the assistants. That does not have to be us. That can be anybody. We can't ethically require your successor trustees to actually hire us. Most people do. Actually, we've never had anybody who did an estate settlement that didn't, but your successor trustees are perfectly welcome to go and obtain assistance from another attorney, and that's actually part of the agreements that we have. But the successor trustees are in control of that. Nobody's locked into us. So I want to talk about what it means to have the proactive trustee training, beneficiary and trustee training. That is the primary key to making sure that that you secure your appropriate assistants, your team, and that they're prepared. Being prepared means I know what I'm supposed to do, I know what my role is, and I know how things are supposed to be paid for. So because you don't want to be learning that when you're under the stress of mourning or when you're under the stress of trying to take care of somebody who's disabled. And so that's the whole point of the education program, is to help people understand beforehand what they're going to be doing and what's expected of them. So the keys to that proactive training are your commitment, and we have I don't have it up right now. Maybe, Christine, you can pull that up on your computer and show them a little bit later. But we have everybody who has signed the agreement for the Step 2 program a few years ago also signs the commitments, and those commitments include a commitment to have your helpers attend a nuts and bolts class within 1 year. Now, of course, many people have gone quite far beyond that year, and what we found is that there are a lot of people and a lot of helpers who actually haven't attended. And part of that has been, of course, access. If the training is actually in a particular location and your helpers are scattered around the country, that makes it difficult for them to get the training and very difficult for you to persuade them to be trained. After all, they do have a day job and in their own lives. And then, of course, the third is actual participation. And let me put the emphasis on actual participation. It's one thing to have it available. It's one thing to have access to it. It's one thing to be committed to having it done. But if people don't actually participate, then the training doesn't actually happen and people aren't prepared. So we wanted to make that point. And so here's the online education. These are the base planning education programs. This does not include any of the advanced classes. But the first nuts and bolts, and correct me if I've got the dates or days wrong, but the nuts and bolts, all of these classes are on Tuesday, usually the second Tuesday of every month at noon for 1 hour. And so on Tuesday, April 8th at noon is the first nuts and bolts, and that's nuts and bolts of disability. On the second Tuesday of August, that's August 12th at noon, is planning for long-term care. Now, we've had that one on this year because we've had so many requests for a program about long-term care, and in particular, information about Medicaid planning. And so we're planning to actually have us and a panel of a couple of other people on the call to discuss particular aspects of that. It may actually go a little bit longer than an hour, but we'll see. We haven't actually been over the contents of it with the people we're thinking about. Then, of course, on Tuesday, September 9th, we have the nuts and bolts of the state settlement. And then on Tuesday, October 14, we have nuts and bolts of long-term trusts. Now, the first and third nuts and bolts, the disability and the state settlement, are the traditional nuts and bolts classes that all three-step strategy lawyers in the national network are required to give. The other two are ones that either we're creating this year or we're adding back in from prior years. So the last one, the nuts and bolts of long-term trusts, is one that we've talked about in prior years, and we're going to add it in now. And the reason is that we want to train the beneficiaries and successor trustees about what to expect after a state settlement. Because, you know, I used to call that step 4, but really when people do a state settlement, what they end up with is a long-term trust, and they need to know what to expect and that we're there to help them. So that's the purpose of the last one there. So those nuts and bolts of disability and estate settlement are really required classes, and those are the ones we want to make sure that all of your helpers have had the opportunity to go to or to get the information about. And the other two are more optional, but really should not be. And we're hoping that we can get lots of participation in those as well. So then the question is, well, all right, we're going to do this online education. The question is how. And I'm going to turn the call over to Christine, if I can do that just a second. So give board and mouse to Christine. And Christine, you're in charge. Actually, I guess we'll change presenter. I guess that's what we need to do, because that means we're going to go to your computer.
Yep. Okay, great. So you can see my screen now?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, good. So, hi everyone. I'm going to give you the quick technical review. Frank, would you like me to go over the commitments first?
Yeah, would you?
Sure. So I pulled up the commitments that you guys saw. I think it was back in 2009. So there's Bridges and Coin here, but this is what you had originally signed. And the client commitments were this list here. So we'll need assistance in implementing your estate plan and make the following commitments. Notifying the firm of changes in the family or financial circumstances. That's what we do typically in the spring. I will work with the firm to maintain the funding of my trust over my lifetime. Again, that's usually in the spring. We make sure we get that in. And I will assure my helpers are adequately prepared by completing an educational Step 2 basic training program. And as Frank explained, that's the two nuts and bolts classes on disability and estate settlement. I will promptly register to attend annual client meetings and client update programs, and I will actually attend them, and that your questions are important. So then you sign those. Ours to you were pretty similar, that we're committed to updating your trusts and your documents, and due to changes in the law, and then we commit to providing a process to update our records for your funding annually, which is, again, the funding update program, and culminating in returning your report at the annual client meeting. Then we commit to return your phone calls within 48 hours. We recognize that each client learns at a different pace, and we're going to take time to answer your questions, which is now what we call the first call program. We'll work with you, with your other professional advisors, to ensure that your estate plan is properly structured. We commit to provide opportunities each year to educate you and your family members, and that's why we're doing this online program. And we're acknowledging again that your questions are important. So now I'd like to just show you technically first how to use GoToMeeting. I know those that are on the call right now have already gone through this process to be here today, but for the benefit of the recording, I'll go through the steps again. So you got this email from Alicia, and that's what you will receive typically the Monday prior, or maybe it's the Friday prior to the meeting, and then you click on this GoToMeeting. I don't want to click on it right now, just to be sure that I'm not reloading and then I lose you. But you'll get a screen like this, and you'll have to do a download process if this is the first time you've done it. But once you've done it one time on a device, then you can do it time and again, and it will get you to the meeting format pretty quickly. And then you will see, I took a screenshot just to help you guys out too. This is what the screen looks like. Don't worry about the word part here, but the screen part starting here, this is a screenshot of what you should be seeing when you're on the call. So first of all, you'll see the dial-in information here. It's also in the email, but you see the dial-in information and the access code. And before you put in your audio code, if you're calling in, that will also be here. But I've already connected to the audio, as you see, so that's not showing up. When Frank says you can mute yourself, so there's two ways to do it. I'm grayed out here in this microphone because I had muted myself, but that's typically green if you are on the call and your audio is on. And then again here, you can just push one of the symbols next to your name, and that will also mute you. And then obviously you can type a message to us if you have a question that in case you're muted for some reason. So I just wanted to go through that really quickly. Additionally, beyond the emails, we're going to post GoToMeeting instructions on our website on the Step 2 page, which I'll be showing you in a couple of minutes. We don't have them up right now, but we are going to post those just in case, you know, you didn't get the email, or email is not a good process for you, or if you just want to tell your helpers to go there. And as a reminder, you either have to give us the email of your helpers if they include someone who is not the client of the firm. So if your child is your successor trustee, because we don't automatically have them on our list, obviously. Or you could forward the email invitation that Alicia sends out. The same goes for when we upload the recorded version of the webinar to the website. Alicia will send out an email with a link, and your helpers can be on that list, or you can just forward them the email. So these sessions are recorded. They're never more than an hour, and they'll always be at noon Eastern Time. Of course, the benefit of attending the class is being able to ask questions and engage with the material. But I want to show you now how you would get to our page. So first of all, you just want to go to our website. So that's just heritagedesignlaw.com, and it logged me out. So I had a different screen. But this is what everyone sees, the general public can see of our website. And as you see here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the username and password. And for Step 2 members, you want to put in Step 2, with a space between step and 2 and a capital S, and the password is helper with a capital H. And I printed this out here. At least I thought I did. Oh, yes. So, see, the username is step 2. Password is helper with a capital H, just like that. And then you log in. And this is not, you're not going to be able to see this if you don't log in. You go under the Learning Center, and you'll see step 2 classes for helpers. So you scroll down. Right now we have disability and estate settlement from the fall. And if you click on them, you go to the YouTube. So then, so that's that. We are going to have, there's going to be a section for the advanced step 2 classes, and we'll be sending separate emails to those clients who signed up for that, and we'll give login information. But that's basically it. In order for you and your helpers to get the benefit of attending, as Frank said, and to actually fulfill the commitments, we're actually going to have I guess a brief questionnaire, or like a quiz at the end, after a person, whether it be you, your spouse, or a child, whoever your helper may be. And there's going to be this quiz that's 3 questions maybe. Then you and your helpers can just send that back to us, and we'll know that the commitment has been met. So it's not on the website right now. It wasn't a visual that you could see there. However, that will be the case going forward. Again, you'll get all of these alerts through email from us, but if you just follow those steps, it's pretty straightforward. So the next educational event, as Frank explained, March 12th, is for those who sign up for the advanced program, and that's on insurance. And then April 8th, we'll have it on nuts and bolts for all Step 2 members and helpers on disability settlement. So we're going to redo this one. So the next time for all Step 2 members will be April 8th at noon. And I think that's about it. Did you have anything to add to that, Frank?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the nuts and bolts of disability and estate settlement programs that we did last fall are the traditional ones that we've done, but we're considering actually upgrading them to include more information in a more modern format that really actually presents the estate settlement process that we now follow. So one of the reasons that there's no questionnaire there is because we're going to be revising the material, and we really want people to watch the new ones. But in case anybody wants to watch it now, there's the 2 links. Personally, I'd like to avoid people actually watching those, because I hate listening to myself on those videos, because it's just not done very well as far as I'm concerned. You know, you'd never like to hear yourself speak or sing, and there you go. So we will be having the little questionnaire. It'll be very short. It'll be right there next to the link to the actual program, and you'll be able to download that and then just answer the questions. The questions will be fairly simple, and just it's essentially a way of keeping attendance. We have ways to have people sign in and give us their email, but we thought that this is probably the simplest and easiest way for people to actually participate. So I'm going to just go ahead and open it up for questions now, and in the meantime, I just want to thank you all for attending. So who has questions? Don't be sure to unmute yourself if you do, and please feel free to ask us any questions you've got.
Frank, for those of us, well, I'm here, but where a spouse is not here, she's out of town, to access today's presentation, which once it will be online, how do we go about that? Maybe I'm missing something here.
Okay, well, you'll get an email from Alicia once it's uploaded to YouTube.
And that will Fine. Okay.
That'll explain it, but also it will be, the link to the YouTube thing will be on that page that we just showed you.
Okay.
So we're just going to add that as another item on the page, and as time goes by, we'll be adding the 4 classes to that page.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Frank, a question on my end. This is Bob and Mary Jane. Do we know or whether we're part of the 2014 CUP attendees, or I know you've got the fourth quarter meetings in there, but when do we get to know whether we're part of the 14 year or not for every other year?
If you went last fall, you're not part of the 2014 updates.
I don't recall.
Okay, so if you did go last fall, then you are.
Bob?
Yep.
I think you are in the 2014 update.
Okay, so I'll throw those dates on the calendar then.
Yeah, I think you are. I'll double check and send you an email.
Okay, appreciate it.
Are there any other questions? Well, I guess it seems like there are not. Of course, if you do have questions, feel free to call us anytime. That's the purpose of the First Call program in any event. We gave it the name First Call because I had to have a name for it so people understood there actually was something you could do. And I apologize for all the TMs, but essentially most of the TMs we have to put into these various different bits of intellectual property because we're required to protect them on behalf of the national network. And that's a lot of the TM information you see is actually national network intellectual property that we have to protect. So again, I want to thank you for attending. This has been recorded, and we'll be sending you a link to this recording in case you want to listen to it again. And it will be on the website, so you can actually go to the website and listen to it anytime you want. So we look forward to, yeah.
Sorry, this
Thank
is
you,
Christine.
Frank.
I just wanted to say to everyone, too, please don't hesitate to just call Alicia or I prior to a presentation because we're sitting here doing the same process, signing on, and we're more than happy to just help you go through the login process. So don't worry about bothering us even up until the event. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you all very, very much, and we look forward to seeing you and speaking with you this year.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.